Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Tonight, I'm going to be reacting to why all Germans were Nazis, how Hitler created the Third Reich between two wars, 1934, part 1 of 4 by Time Ghost History. If you want to check out my previous reactions, remember the playlist card will be at the top. Just click on it and be able to access them. If you want to check out the original video as well as Time Ghost History's YouTube channel, the links are in the description below. Okay, let's start. 3, 2, 1, go.
Were all Germans Nazis? Well, no, and most certainly not before 1933. But at some point after that, most Germans became Nazis. But how could that happen? It's a process the Nazis called Gleichschaltung. In English, it would roughly be phasing out the state and freedom of thought, and phasing in the party machine and Nazi zealotry. This year, 1934, Hitler's Gleichschaltung goes into overdrive. Welcome to Between Two Wars, a chronological summary of the interwar years, covering all facets of life, the uncertainty, hedonism, and euphoria, and ultimately, humanity's descent into the darkness of the Second World War. I'm Indy Nidell. In our 1933 episode on Adolf Hitler's Machtergreifung, we saw how in the space of just 54 days, Hitler went from Chancellor of Weimar Germany to de facto dictator of Nazi Germany. This Nazi power grab was made possible by the Nazi organization, created by now disgraced Nazi leader Gregor Strasser. It is this state within the state that Hitler will now continue to use to forge the 1,000-year Reich for which he so desperately yearns. It is a process that will rely on 6 steps. 1. Rally the economic power behind the party by guaranteeing big business owners liberal opportunities to reap profits for themselves. 2. Usurp state government and replace it with the party machine. 3. Use the extreme powers of the Reich Chancellery and the Governor of Prussia to replace judges, prosecutors, and police leaders with party loyalists. 4. Force the party program into law and change any legislation that stands in the way of Nazi power and Nazi ideology. 5. Let loose the violence of the Nazi paramilitary, the stormtroops of the SA, on any perceived enemies. 6. Seize total control of all mass and public communications to feed Germans nothing but an endless loop of the party message. Now,
And from all those 6 points, you create a bubble for the populace of Germany, where they only breathe and eat and sleep and think about this Nazi culture and political ideology and what they should be as a people, as this Aryan race. It's literally creating this illusionary world where people will be completely under the thrall of this new government. Scary stuff.
Strasser created a machine that is so effective and efficient that Hitler can more or less stay on the sidelines, concentrating instead on rallying support from industry and finance. The regime operates along the lines of institutional Darwinism. Historian Thomas Childers summarizes this organized chaos. At the top, the Third Reich resembled a medieval court, with loyal vassals jostling for Hitler's favor, but acting with surprising independence. Party and state agencies competed to interpret and implement the will of the Führer. Hitler rarely interceded and never committed himself to paper. Orders were verbal, notoriously vague, and not infrequently contradictory. At every level of the state and party apparatus, officials sought to work towards the Führer, but essentially operated on their own. And what the Führer wants is the total Nazification of Germany. The political violence to achieve that has always been part of the movement, and fully unshackled from the checks and balances of democracy, it now picks up in force. Since 1931, the ultra-violent paramilitary Sturmabteilung, SA, has been led by what is, by some accounts, Hitler's only personal friend, Ernst Röhm. Röhm is a veteran of the Great War, where he served as captain in the Bavarian army and was wounded multiple times, leaving his face deeply scarred. He joined the German Workers' Party around the same time as Hitler, before it became the NSDAP. He is more or less openly gay, although he differentiates his kind of homosexuality from the undesirable kind.
Yeah. You know, when you're a politician, like things are just different for you. They're different for you. They are totally different for you. If you're powerful enough, if you're close enough to the leader, to the Führer, you know, things are different for you. The same laws don't apply to you. They only apply to those who are commoners and who are considered to be what is that German term for half human? Untermensch. Yes, it only applies to the Untermensch and it applies to everybody else. But if you are close to the Führer, you know, things are different. They're just totally different. Wow. I mean, this guy should be in a concentration camp.
His kind is just another aspect of soldiery and camaraderie, while he condemns and violently pursues what he sees as gender-degenerate liberal homosexuality. He is also a competent officer and is fiercely independent. He has a fanatic belief in a violent people's Nazi revolution launched by the SA. By 1932, he has forged the organization into more of a military order and swelled its ranks from 77,000 to close to 300,000 goons and thugs. Many of them are convicted criminals, and not just for political violence. Thieves, murderers, drug dealers, general troublemakers. He sees this violent, hyper-organized force as a thing apart from the Nazi Party. It fits right into Strasser's decentralized organizational ideas, but
Something that's apart from the Nazi Party, isn't that a serious problem for Adolf Hitler? You know, because now he has his friend who is part of an organization that is not going to follow the toe that Hitler might set. Like if Hitler says this, you know, his friend will go the other way. What's his name? Holm? Yes, he will go the other way. So wouldn't that be like a serious issue for him politically and even militarily? I don't know if they're part of the military, but they look paramilitary. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure if they're part of the German military, but I think this might be a serious issue. Yeah.
it also makes more hierarchical concerned members of the leadership, like Heinrich Himmler and Hermann Goering, apprehensive and nervous. The very moment that Hitler assumes dictatorial power, Röhm's gangs go into overdrive and start rounding up potential political enemies across the country in cellars, barracks, sheds, warehouses, abandoned offices, even private homes. Detainees are intimidated, beaten, and tortured. Many of them died, some murdered, most simply as a result of the brutal treatment. These black sites quickly grow into ad hoc camps, the first concentration camps. Although many surviving victims are released after being taught a lesson, by mid-1934, 80 to 100,000 of them are still imprisoned in these camps.
If I was in these camps, right, and by some miracle chance that I've been released, I'm getting out of Germany. I don't know where would I go, but I'm leaving this place as fast as possible. Yeah. And preferably far away from Europe. But where exactly, I'm not sure.
This catches the attention of Himmler, who already has advanced plans to shift control of the Nazi militia to his SS, the Schutzstaffel, Hitler's bodyguard. They are genuinely a military organization, but also even more fanatical than the SA, and more importantly, they are fiercely loyal to the Führer. On April 1st, 1933, Himmler orders Theodor Eicke, an SS loyalist officer, to open a detention camp near Munich in Dachau. This becomes the first organized concentration camp. Reich sets up a camp order based on nothing else than sadistic, torturous terror aimed at incapacitating political enemies and breaking their souls. At this point, the inmates are mostly only political enemies, but some of these are also Jews, and they are treated especially severely. They are, by Nazi doctrine, the ultimate racial enemy of the German race. And in the mind of the Nazis, their Third Reich can only come into existence after the nation is rid of its perceived racial enemies. Already in March, when the Enabling Act is passed, Jews are targeted. At first, it's not a direct order of the party, but it is desired, approved, and tolerated. The month of March sees anti-Semitic violence on an almost daily basis. In Breslau, Röhm's SA men storm a courthouse, attacking Jewish judges and lawyers, and drive them from the building. In Mannheim, local stormtroops forcibly close Jewish shops. In Gedern, Nazi thugs invade Jewish homes and beat their inhabitants. Anti-Semitic violence is condemned in international reactions, but many Jewish groups, even within Germany, are also anxious that antagonizing Germany too much will only worsen the situation. On March 26, Kurt Blumenfeld, president of the Zionist Federation for Germany, and Julius Brodnitz, president of the Jewish Central Association, cabled the American Jewish Committee in New York, stating, "We unequivocally demand energetic efforts to obtain an end to demonstrations hostile to Germany." Nevertheless, and somewhat reluctantly, the American Jewish Congress calls for an international boycott of German goods on March 27th. Earlier in the month, Hitler allowed Julius Streicher, Gauleiter of Franconia, publisher of Der Stürmer, and a man whose anti-Semitism is extreme even by Nazi standards, to begin preparing for a boycott of their own. And the American boycott has now provided supposedly clear justification for one. On April 1st, stormtroops stationed themselves outside Jewish-owned shops and offices, carrying signs like, "Germans, defend yourselves, don't buy from Jews," and intimidating anyone who dares enter the buildings anyway. Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels is delighted with the immediate results. He writes ecstatically in his diary that all Jewish shops are closed, SA guards stand before the entries, everywhere the public has declared its solidarity, exemplary discipline dominates. Yeah, but the public isn't as enthusiastic about the boycott as Goebbels wants to think. There are reports that in Hanover, customers enter Jewish businesses by force. And in Munich, many customers have stocked up on merchandise already before the boycott.
Yeah, but I don't think that they're, to be against this, to be against what the government is proposing, that the Jewish stores and Jewish businesses should be closed and stuff like that. I don't think they're necessarily there to oppose that. They're just there to buy what they want, to get what they want, and then leave as soon as possible. Just to get what they want as soon as possible and then leave. They're not necessarily there to defend Jewish, stores or people who believe in the Jewish faith. Those people and their businesses. They're not there to protect them. They're just there to get what they want and get out. So, yeah.
On April 7th, the Law for the Protection of a Professional Civil Service is enacted. This orders that all non-Aryans, that is to say non-Germans as defined by the Nazis, be immediately dismissed from national, state, and municipal services. Jews are now barred from serving as judges, teachers, professors, or any government position. Further legislation in the month bans Jews from taking the bar or practicing medicine through state insurance programs.
And yet again, we're not hearing anything about the German people in majority, standing up in arms against something like this, because it doesn't affect them. And now there are spaces open in these particular fields. A doctor, a teacher, a lawyer, all these types of positions are now open. Therefore, it will be given to Germans who are considered to be of the Aryan race or whatever nonsense they want to call themselves. It'll be given to them, and they'll be happy with that. they'll be happy with that. They won't really think about, how they got the job and what, proceeded for them to have that job. It's none of their business. It's none of their issue. We keep moving forward. We close our eyes. We close our ears. We don't know anything. Everything's okay.
Under pressure from President Hindenburg, Hitler does allow for exceptions, which leaves a great deal of Jewish Germans unaffected by the draconian legislation. For now. The other group that becomes a target for elimination by law or phasing into Nazism is the political opposition from the left. The law for the protection of a professional civil service also allows the government to dismiss anyone that is politically unreliable. In other words, left-wing or liberal. It expands the illegal detention of Communist and Social Democrat Party members and sympathizers who have already been arrested, and enables the Nazi-controlled courts to formalize the concentration camps into a legitimate penitentiary system. But force will not work to subjugate an entire population. Now, the Nazis extend their vaguely labor-friendly rhetoric into symbolic action. For years, the traditional socialist May Day has been a sore point of contention between the left and the right. To avoid May 1st being a rallying point for the socialist cause, the liberal and conservative governments have officially named it Tag der Arbeit, or Day of Work, celebrating German industriousness. The left wants it to be a public holiday and called Tag der Arbeiter, Day of the Workers, and to demonstrate for increased labor rights and labor protection. Hitler keeps the conservatives' name, but makes it a public holiday. It's a colorful, folkloric, and militaristic pageant celebrating the Nazi Party, framing it as the party of progress, industry, and the work ethos of the German race. Some labor leaders do show cooperation and join the marches, but not all participation is voluntary. Many factory owners force their workers to join in, and stormtroops go from house to house in many urban areas, bullying the inhabitants into taking part. Although Hitler and other Nazi leaders proclaim the end of class division, it is clear that what they are doing is removing any left-wing threat. With many workers lulled into inactivity by the celebrations, SA and SS men raid trade union offices the very next day. Union officers are arrested and the movement is left without leaders. A week later, on the 10th, a law breaks up the unions and reorganizes them into the German Labor Front, the DAF. It immediately consists of 8 million workers from the dissolved unions, and it supposedly acts in their best interests. In reality,
just like that. Just like that.
It's a means to regulate the entire German workforce. The numbers say it all. Inflation-adjusted wages will never return to 1929 levels under the Nazis. In 1939, they will be at 83% of that. Meanwhile, gross domestic product recovers already by 1935, so employees' salary share of GDP actually shrinks. The DAF, in reality, mostly works to abolish worker protection, but it also provides a wide variety of well-advertised member programs like sports activities, package tours, cruises, holiday villages. While this is hardly compensation, it convinces members they are now better off. Combined with public works, visible progress for industry, and the slow but steady gaslighting of the population into a false sense of security and order, this will eventually contribute to the myth of the good Hitler years.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's terrifyingly amazing. Truly. Wow.
But to maintain a myth, you need to control the narrative. The Nazis have already been building up their communications power with their own media assets. Publications like Streicher's Der Stürmer and the official party newspaper Volkische Beobachter have been pumping out party propaganda for a decade by now. Goebbels now switches into high gear. First, he works with media mogul and still Minister of Finance Alfred Hugenberg to start gaining direct ownership of Hugenberg's media empire and other media outlets. They introduce censorship and draconian rules for how the media is allowed to report on domestic and foreign events. They take over production companies like UFA to subtly insert their messaging into otherwise harmless entertainment.
So basically, the German government has nationalized all media outlets, and they're using it for their own, mouthpiece to project this perfect Nazi government that's being created.
They will soon launch the Volksempfänger, the people's radio receiver, so the party will have a loudspeaker in every home. Already after a few weeks, the Nazi Party has a firm grip on the German news cycles, and the news is an endless stream of misinformation with a steady drip of repeated propaganda. If you live in Germany in 1934, you will have to go out of your way, break the law, and risk imprisonment to hear any other side of any story other than Joseph Goebbels' version. With the labor movement gone, any dissenting voices silenced, many of the Social Democrat Party, SPD, members not yet incarcerated flee the country. The SPD is outright banned on June 22nd on the pretext of treason. The rest of the Weimar parties follow. Even Hugenberg is dismissed from his cabinet position on June 26. The remaining liberal and conservative parties dissolve. Franz von Pappen's Centrum Party is the last to go. When sidelined, it disbands on July 6. And less than 4 months after the enabling law, the NSDAP, the Nazi Party, is the only remaining political party in Germany. The one-party state has been established. While Hitler consolidates his legal and constitutional power, any other perceived enemies of the Nazi way of life face brutal persecution. On May 6, 1933, the Institute for Sexual Science in Berlin is attacked by members of the National Social German Students' League. The Institute is a serious academic institute that has pioneered research into sexuality and gender, championed gay rights, abortion, transgender awareness. It's also known for housing up to 20,000 books and writings on sexual topics.
I'm surprised that it has existed as long as it has, I am quite surprised. But they should have prepared, in advance, in packing away all of their research, all of their books, all of their pictures, and, ship them off somewhere safe, out of Germany probably. They should have prepared, but they just accepted that this is the new reality, and yeah, there's nothing that they can do, really.
Along with a massive collection of photographs. The Nazi students rush the Institute, pour red ink over manuscripts, shatter windows, destroy photographs, and ransack the building. 4 days later, the Institute is raided by stormtroops who take as many books as they can carry and bring them to Opera Square. They are stacked in a heap and set ablaze. Around 10,000 books are burned. The press is jubilant, reporting on the destruction of a poison shop run by Jews hell-bent on destroying the German family.
Everything is run by Jews, eh? Everything is touched by Jews. Everything is made by Jews. Oh, gosh. Hey.
It is in moments like this that Röhm falls back on his rather unorthodox view of homosexuality to reconcile his own sexuality with the actions of his movement. On July 14, 1933, the Nazis continued their crusade against science and humanity with the law for the prevention of genetically diseased offspring. This allows the compulsory sterilization of anyone considered to be suffering from what is believed to be hereditary diseases like schizophrenia, manic depression, or epilepsy. It is a victory for eugenicists. In the next 5 years, around 200,000 people will be sterilized under this law. As 1934 rolls around, the violent measures of repression and the street violence by the SA continues. But there is also an eerie calm settling over the country. The years of partisan upheaval seem to be over. Although everyday life is punctuated by violent outbursts, uniformed militants still march in the streets to the tune of the Horst Wessel song, and the country has turned into a quilt of red, white, and black swastika flags. To most Germans, it looks like the end of turbulence, not the beginning of terror. After all, most people are not active socialists or Jews or any part of any other minority. And like in many other parts of the world in 1934, some non-Nazis even welcome hardline measures against Jews and socialists. Moreover, the economy continues to recover. With this cosmetic calm, the party leadership can concentrate on consolidating their position, dismantling the state apparatus in peace, and preparing the next phase of their plan, rearmament and expansion. There's only one thing, or rather one person, who can threaten that now: Ernst Röhm. See, Röhm is in no way ready to give up his bloodfest, and feels that until the population has risen up in arms to fulfill the Nazi vision in a grand battle against its imagined enemies, his revolution is not over.
What?
As early as June 1933, Röhm writes in the Nationalsozialistisches Monatshefte, a political journal of the party, that the SA and SS will not tolerate the German Revolution going to sleep or being betrayed at the halfway stage by non-combatants.
What is this guy talking about? What is going on in his mind? He has lost it.
Now openly positions the SA as the third pillar of the regime alongside the police and the army, assigned with special tasks, and again challenges any opposition.
And what are those special tasks exactly?
Declaring, whether it suits them or not, we will continue our fight. With them, if they finally grasp what it's all about. Without them, if they don't want it. And against them, if it must be.
But what are you fighting against? I mean, you guys have total, complete control over the country now. What more do you want? Clearly, you just want to cling on to your own power, no matter the cost. Even make up imaginary enemies out of thin air, you know. You just want this regalias and the clothing and the marching bands, you know, and people calling you their leader and everything. You just want that lifestyle, and you're afraid that you're going to lose it, probably.
By 1934, the Sturmabteilung has grown to nearly 3 million, and Röhm is now demanding that the German army be merged into the SA.
This guy is a clear threat to Hitler now. 3 million. And now he's having this, you know, audacious request that the military and his SA should be united as one. I mean, this is crazy. I'm surprised that Hitler allowed this man to continue on as he does. Maybe he trusts him that much. I don't know.
In April, Hitler forces his old friend to stand down. It seems like their friendship is over. Röhm later says, "What that ridiculous corporal says means nothing to me. I have not the slightest intention of keeping this agreement. Hitler is a traitor and at the very least must go on leave. If we can't get there with him, we'll get there without him." So the
Whoa! Okay.
rift grows ever deeper. Hitler convinces Röhm to schedule a meeting June 30th for SA leaders in Bad Wiese in Upper Bavaria. It's a trap. The SS and the Gestapo descend on the town, and during that night, at least 85 and perhaps as many as 200 of the SA's leadership are arrested and summarily executed. Röhm is taken to prison and allowed to commit suicide. He refuses, and on July 2nd, he too is executed. Hitler also uses the opportunity to get rid of Strasser and his ally, ex-Chancellor Kurt von Schleicher. When a squad of SS men breaks into Schleicher's house to arrest and take him away, they open fire, killing Schleicher and his wife, Elisabeth von Schleicher. Goebbels notes in his diary, "Everything according to plan in Berlin, save the mistake that Elisabeth Schleicher fell to." Nothing to do about that, though. Hitler
That's it? Okay. Oh, okay. So, yeah, Hitler eliminated his political rivals and his potential rivals, even those that created this new Nazi state for him. He has eliminated them because he considers them also as threats to his hegemony. Okay, all right. Because I was wondering, like, was this guy, what's his name, Holm, going to continue as he does with his tirades and continue to criticize the the leader, the Führer, as he does, and the Führer is not going to do anything about it. But yeah, he has done it. He has finally silenced his longtime friend.
Hitler makes sure that his actions are retroactively declared legal on July 3rd with the Law for the Emergency Defense of the State. It consists of a single sentence. The measures taken to crush the treasonous attacks against the internal and external security of the state on June 30th and July 1st and 2nd, 1934 are deemed justified as self-defense of the state. Pretty much every significant power in Germany is relieved or even delighted that the SA has been decapitated. The general public, the business leaders, they are pleased that such radical social revolutionaries are removed from power. The army is satisfied that the most direct threat to their influence has been eliminated, and even Hindenburg commends Hitler, telling him he has rescued the German people from a serious threat.
Yeah, it appears the SA were truly a nuisance to these different power structures. I mean, they even had 3 million people under their banner. I mean, that's a serious contender right there. And yeah, the SA really was a threat to the hegemony of the party as well as their leader.
But the faction who has gained the most from the purge is Himmler and the SS, now free from SA dominance and responsible only to Adolf Hitler. With that, any real challenge to Hitler's power is vanquished. This is only reaffirmed when President Hindenburg dies on August 2nd. The last constitutional check on Hitler's power, though by this time pretty much entirely ceremonial, is gone. Immediately, Hitler's cabinet passes the Law Concerning the Highest State Office of the Reich, which merges the offices of Chancellor and President. Later in the month, a referendum is held for the public to approve this measure. Under widespread intimidation and electoral fraud, around 90% of votes affirm Hitler's supreme power. He is now truly the uncontested Führer that will lead Germany into its ruin, nearly dragging the whole world along with it.
Yes, the Führer is born into the world.
If you'd like to learn more about the system of Nazi terror, you can check out our War Against Humanity episode about that right here, any second now. Our patron of the week is Jordi Popov. Thanks to people like Jordi, we are able to continue making this show the way it is. So do like Jordi and join the Time Ghost Army at patreon.com or timeghost.tv. Don't forget to subscribe and remember what G.K. Chesterton so wisely opined. The Bible tells us to love our neighbors and also to love our enemies, probably because generally they're the same people. Prost.
Okay guys, that was Why All Germans Were Nazis, How Hitler Created the Third Reich Between Two Wars, 1934, Part 1 of 4 by Time Ghost History. Yeah, those 6 objectives, the 6 objectives of controlling the economy, controlling the judiciary, controlling the military, the government, creating new media organizations that are going to, dispense information that supports the overtake of the entire government and society as a whole. The 6th one, I forgot what the 6th one was about now. But yes, those 6 objectives were complete, and the people of Germany, those in majority, not the minorities, the majority of the population, they've decided just to close their ears, shut their eyes, and pretend as if everything is okay, that, I'm not Jew, so, I'm not the one at fault, or I'm not sick, therefore I'm not the one at fault, or I'm not a homosexual, therefore I'm not the one at fault. It's those people. And those people, I don't really care about them. They are not part of me. They're not associated to me. Whatever happens to them, happens to them. Out of sight, out of mind. That essentially, that's what it is. And yes, Germany is now far less turbulent because all the oppositions have been eliminated, all oppositions have been suppressed. There's no dissenting voices against this regime that's been created. And to the majority of Germans in the country, they just believe that everything is now turning out to be peaceful for them. Those that have been kicked out of jobs that they once held, especially those who are believing in a particular faith. If you like, for instance, if you believe in the Jewish faith, you're kicked out. That space is open. Therefore, anyone who is of the Aryan race, or those who are considered to be German, they take those positions and they're okay. They're happy. The Jewish stores, the people who bought from those stores didn't necessarily care about those people. They just wanted what they had in the stores. They bought them as soon as they could, and they went out. And whatever happens next, it's none of their issue. It's none of their problem. So yeah, the Nazi Party and the Nazi government as a whole literally created this bubble of this illusion, this peaceful, progressive society meant only for German people. And it made the people in the country feel happy. Even the workers, they had this illusion of this safety net, of enjoying the lifestyles that they see other people having, like especially like if they were the rich people, going on cruises, playing sports, having all these activities. Now they're able to have it and they think they've made it. They've been sold that dream by the government, and they're none the wiser about what it truly means now. The fact that their trade unions have been dismantled and now they're in the control of a union that is under the government itself. So they're just none the wiser about what's truly happening, and by the time they do realize, it'll be too late. And yeah, it's amazing how they were able to do all of this, and the rest of the world didn't necessarily intervene. They just watched it all happen. Yes, there was some protests in America, about the Jewish people who have been persecuted or who have been thrown out of their workplaces, or their shops being destroyed. Yes, there were some situations with that, but then in terms of everybody else, all the other minorities, you hear nothing about them. You hear nothing about their suffering, about their plight. You don't hear that other governments talking about that, to Germany, telling them that, guys, what you're doing here is wrong. Against Jewish people, against any minority, what you're doing here is wrong. And even the concentration camps were starting to open up for new detainees to come inside. And probably the rest of the world didn't even know that these things were being created there in Germany. So yeah, I think they only realized that during World War II, when the Allied forces started going deeper into the German territory, and they found those concentration camps, and only then were they surprised and shocked about what the German government has been doing, to all of these people. So yeah, I'm sure they didn't even know that these concentration camps were opening up, and yeah, it's just shocking. Like I don't know what else I can say. Really, I don't know what else I can say. Yeah, it's amazing. Guys, that's it for tonight. Remember, if you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. If you want to check out the original video as well as Time Goes History's YouTube channel, the links are in the description below. Until next week, Tuesday, good night.